Imagine this. Two people wake up on the same morning. They live in different neighborhoods, earn different incomes, have completely different lives on paper. But as the day unfolds, something strangely similar happens inside both of them. A quiet calculation begins. What can I afford today? What can I delay? What risk is safe and what risk could break everything? It's not loud, it doesn't show up in conversations, but it sits in the background of every decision, shaping how they move, how they think, how they plan. And in that moment, you start realizing something uncomfortable. Poverty doesn't always look like empty pockets. Sometimes it looks like a lack of space. At first, we define poverty in the simplest way possible. Income, assets, numbers that can be measured, compared, categorized. It feels objective, clear. If someone earns less, they're struggling. If they earn more, they're stable. But real life doesn't always follow that equation, because you can increase someone's income and still leave them feeling stuck, still leave them feeling like one unexpected event could disrupt everything. And when that feeling exists, something deeper is at play. Because what most people experience as poverty is not just a shortage of money, it's a shortage of margin, the absence of breathing room between what life demands and what they can comfortably provide. And that margin is not just financial, it's mental, emotional, structural. It's the difference between making decisions calmly and making them under pressure. Think about how differently you behave when you have space, when there's a cushion, when a mistake doesn't immediately create consequences. You think longer, you plan better, you take opportunities that might not pay off instantly but could grow over time. But remove that space, even slightly, and everything changes. Your decisions become shorter term, more reactive, more focused on survival than growth. And this is where the real shift happens. Poverty begins to shape behavior, not because people lack intelligence or discipline, but because their environment demands immediate solutions. When every decision carries weight, when every mistake feels expensive, the mind adapts. It prioritizes certainty over possibility, stability over exploration, and over time, that adaptation becomes a pattern. Around this point, it's worth pausing for a moment. If you're watching this and realizing that financial struggle is not just about how much you earn, but about how much space you have, you're on Prime Gorilla, where we break down the deeper psychology behind money, behavior, and modern life. If this perspective is changing how you see things, take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who feels stuck despite working hard, and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Because once you zoom out further, you begin to see how this lack of margin creates a cycle. When you don't have space, you make decisions that protect the present, but those same decisions often limit the future. You avoid risks that could improve your situation because the downside feels too dangerous. You delay long-term investments because short-term needs feel more urgent. And slowly, without realizing it, your life becomes optimized for stability, not growth. And here's the difficult part. From the outside, this can look like a lack of ambition, like people are not trying hard enough. But from the inside, it feels completely rational, because when the margin is thin, the cost of being wrong is too high. So you choose what feels safe, even if it keeps you in the same place. At the same time, something else begins to happen. Stress becomes constant, not because of one big problem, but because of many small uncertainties. Bills, deadlines, unexpected expenses, future planning, all of it sits in your mind at once. And that constant mental load reduces your ability to think clearly, to plan effectively, to make decisions that require patience. It's not just a financial state, it's a cognitive one. Now imagine the opposite. Not extreme wealth, not luxury, but just enough margin, enough to absorb a mistake, enough to think without urgency, enough to make a decision based on long-term value instead of immediate necessity. That small difference changes behavior in ways that are hard to measure but easy to feel. It creates confidence, flexibility, the ability to say no to bad opportunities and yes to uncertain ones. And this is where the deeper realization forms. Poverty is not just about how much money you have. It's about how much control you have over your decisions. Because when your options are limited, your choices are not truly free. They're constrained by your environment. And over time, those constraints shape your outcomes. The irony is that people often try to solve poverty only at the surface level, increase income, reduce expenses, optimize budgets. And while those things matter, they don't always address the underlying issue, because if the structure of life still leaves no margin, the feeling of poverty remains, the pressure remains, the cycle continues. And that leads to the final perspective shift. The opposite of poverty is not wealth, it's space, the ability to think, to choose, to move without constant pressure. Because once you have space, everything else becomes easier to build. Income can grow, opportunities can be explored, mistakes can be survived. But without space, even higher income can feel restrictive. So the real question is not just how much do I earn, it's how much room does my life give me to think, to act, to adapt? Because that room is what determines whether you are surviving or actually building something.
If this video opened your eyes, make sure you subscribe, because what you learn today can save your future tomorrow.